Hello and welcome to WV Ed Talks, Learning from the Community. I have one of my favorite teachers and one of my favorite teacher's favorite daughters here today for our session. So looky there's Peyton, sweet Peyton. Hello Peyton, how are you? I'm going to have Peyton introduce herself and then her dad, Kyle, introduce himself. He's a teacher from Cabell County, someone I've known for a while. So Peyton, tell us about you. What's your name and what school you go to and something really cool you want us to know about you to start off. Besides, you're a cool cat.
My name's Peyton Berry, and I go to Village of Barnesville Elementary School, and I wear glasses. And I like cats.
But we can't find them right now, so.
All right, great. So, Kyle, just introduce yourself. Tell them what you do.
Kyle Berry. I teach at Barnesville Middle School. This past year, I was grade 6-8 computer science. Before that, I've done a little bit of everything, math, science, social studies. I've worked outside of schools as a consultant for several different agencies. And just enjoying the ride.
Awesome. So Peyton, how has it been learning at home with mom and dad?
Pretty cool. I mean, I get to spend the whole day with my favorite bear.
That's awesome. So you're in what, fourth grade?
Yeah.
Fourth grade. And you're going to go into fifth grade next year, right? Okay. And so your teacher, tell us about your teacher, how awesome she is. She's one of my favorites too. Don't tell anyone.
Miss Cummings is super smart, and she lets us and she usually before we leave she lets us watch something about learning. Sometimes it's maybe Liberty Kids or something else, but she's awesome.
So have you been able to kind of do Zoom chats with her, Zoom meetings?
Yeah.
While you've been home? Good. You get to see some of your classmates?
Yes. And some of my classmates' dogs.
Yes. I understand.
And cats.
Yeah. So it's a kind of fun show and tell time, right? You get to see each other's houses and animals. Yeah. Very cool. So what's your favorite thing besides spending time with your favorite bear, your parents while you've been home? So what's your favorite subject, compared to when you were actually at the school to being at home? Has your favorite subject changed? Do you like math the most, or do you like reading?
I kind of like reading.
Yeah, that's cool. So what have you been doing with reading? Is there are you reading a lot of books? Doing a lot of writing, probably.
Books you and your mommy read.
I read what was the Gold Rush and Little House on the Prairie.
Ooh, nice. Little House on the Prairie. That's one of my favorites. Very cool. So, are you ready to go back to school at some point, though? Do you miss your friends a little bit? Or do you like home? And there's no wrong answer. Yeah, I think a lot of students like being at home, that's for sure, whether you're an elementary school student or middle school or high school. So, yeah, it's been good. It's been good. So, have you you feel like you're closer to your parents? You bond with them, and yeah, cool, very cool. So I'm going to ask you, because I feel like the students are the experts. When us adults plan what we're going to do for you, we always should ask you what you want, right? You agree? Yeah. So, is there something that you would change in how you've been learning at home? Is there something you would add to it that would make it more fun and exciting? Or do you like it just the way it is?
I think I like it how it is.
Very good. Very good. So do you know, like, can you walk us through your day at like when you're at home at school? Like, do you start out like in the morning, or do you get to sleep in a little bit? Like, is it easier to sleep in a little bit and then get started?
And
Uh-huh.
I get to sleep in, and I wake up, and then I eat breakfast and watch TV or play on my tablet. I named him Bob.
Nice.
And then we do the work, and we take little brain breaks after each thing, and then we do Zoom meetings, and then I eat dinner, and then I take a bath,
Whole thing.
and then I visit my aunt, and then I go to sleep.
Very good. Sounds like a full day. Yeah. And you like that schedule, right? Like that nice, steady schedule. Good. So what was that? Or is that me? That might have been me echoing. So are you excited about 5th grade?
No.
No? Are you excited about a new teacher? Or you really like Mrs. Kareem? You wish she taught 5th grade? You don't have to answer. Very cool. So are you happy though that you have a break now? So school's out, right? And you're happy you have a break? So what are you planning on doing? You gonna do anything special this summer? Gonna read a little bit maybe, or do something fun? Play games?
Yeah, well, first of all, see my Danielle a lot, and then I might go swimming at Kate's mom at Kate's house. They have a pool, and I just went swimming there.
Very good. Nice. Do you ever play disc golf with Dad?
Sometimes.
I know Dad's a disc golfer, right? Big disc golfer. You helping keep score? Because he's probably really bad at math, right? No.
Well, there is.
I'm kidding. Is there anything you want people out there to know about you, Peyton? I know you stay pretty active. Like before all this happened, when you were out of school, you were part of Ridge Runner, right?
Yeah.
And Awanas. Are you excited to get back to those type of things? A dance class, right? Yeah.
Good News Club.
Yep.
Every
Good
Tuesday.
News Club. Yeah. Yes. Good News Club is after school, right? So you get to stay at the school a little bit longer.
School every Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
They have really fun parties, I hear.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big deal. I remember Good News Club when my daughter went to Village of Barbers Elementary. Yeah. All right. Well, you've been a good interviewer or interviewee. I don't know what it is. Is there something you want people to know? Anything else about you?
Did we get it all?
Maybe. Well, you're welcome to stick around while we talk to your dad, and if you think of anything else, you're welcome to kind of pipe in if you want, or you can, go do what you need to do. How's that sound?
Bye.
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 Bye. Oh, she's awesome.
Oh yeah, we like her.
Yeah, you'll keep her, right? A little bit longer. So how are you, Mr. Barry?
Doing okay. Shifting gears a little bit, getting ready for summer adventures, whatever shape that takes.
Yeah. A lot of unknowns right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I interviewed some parents and teachers today about what they've been experiencing and maybe their ideas about what school might look like in the fall. A lot of ideas, which are great. But I'll tell you, one of the things that came out, and I always say something that I like to think of the positives, and something I've noticed, especially on the elementary school level. I don't know about the middle school, high school. My daughter's a freshman in high school, so it's a little different. But the building of relationships between parents and teachers has kind of grown. Where they're zooming with the teachers more and maybe communicating a little bit more than they were before, which is awesome. I mean, not that everyone does, but a lot of them, a lot more than it was in school. So, and I know you're really passionate about building those relationships as a middle school teacher. So, and we're going to talk about that. So, but what came out of the conversations today was with teachers and parents was they really want a way to kind of do an orientation or some sort of training for parents, where a teacher and maybe a parent facilitate even together or apart. We don't know what it looks like. We were just shooting out ideas. So maybe you can help, I hope. What that looks like kind of leading up to school, not just even waiting until school starts in the fall. And I know you have a program, an idea that you've been working on. So you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, well, it actually goes along perfectly with what you're saying. There's just kind of getting everybody on the same page. And one of those things is kind of speaking the same language. One of the great, we can only really go as far as our shared language is going to take us. And that's something I've noticed, in all my years of teaching, talking with parents, but then, especially now, where that instructional component is going to move to the home and they're around it more, and they're sitting there like, what do I do? What's going on? And all that uncertainty breeds a lot of apprehension, a lot of stress, anxiety. And I think, you think about all other professions, you think about sports teams, they all have their own kind of language.
Yeah.
Composers, they'll write a piece of music that a musician can pick up and play. They have a language. Memorial Day got me thinking about, got my red, white, and blue on here. I don't usually do long sleeves in the warm months, but had to sport a little bit. But you think back to World War II in the Pacific. I mean, would we have made it if it weren't for the Navajo code talkers and their specialized language? So you look at all of these things, and they have one thing in common, is that shared language. And I think it's really missing in education just because, well, I don't know why. But I think if we do get kind of on the same page with some of these things, it'll help a lot. It'll help us get more from the surface issues, because a lot of our discussions usually focus around things like grades, behavior, attendance. And they're important, naturally, but at the same time, we focus on those things because those are the things we kind of all understand at the table. But those are kind of surface symptoms of perhaps a deeper issue. And so if we kind of get deep in our vocabulary a little bit, all of us, and get on the same page, we can probably do a lot more good. We can get at these problems and just not just try to treat the symptoms.
Yeah, I attended right before COVID-19 hit. We had those county LSIC meetings, for example. And one of the things that came out of that was that, parents, my printer started going crazy. Parents, or the counties kind of make these really pretty flyers and brochures sometimes, but they think they're really communicating to the parents, and so parents will understand, but they're still talking in education jargon, and it's kind of the equivalent of of like if you were at a doctor, talking to a doctor, and a doctor's talking in medical jargon, right? So
Right.
it's the same kind of thing. They're kind of not thinking from that perspective that a parent has not had that training, the same training teachers have had, or administrators or whatever. So, getting on the same page is so important, because a lot of parents don't. I mean, I'm a big advocate for every time a teacher is trained on things like even mental health first aid or discipline, different like aspects of discipline, restorative discipline, that parents need that information too, because they don't often know how to motivate their kids at home.
And doing it at school and at home, it really reinforces. If we're reinforcing each other on that stuff, it's going to make a huge difference. And it's what you're talking about is kind of that classic curse of knowledge. That's a thing teachers have to watch out for, because too often we look at them and go, "It's so simple, why don't you get it?" But of course, that's us. It's easy for us, and we got to break it down on their level, because there's an expert trying to translate it to a beginner. And so that's always something we have to be super cautious about when we're teaching. If I go to a conference and speak to a bunch of practitioners, no problem. Well, sometimes problem, actually. I mean, sometimes I go, what? But, you're going to have a lot less of that in an audience like that than with just like a general audience. So, one of the things, and a lot of that comes down to vocabulary, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think like the state right now, so they have their strategic plan for the state, and we have a county strategic plan. Every school has a strategic plan, right?
Lots of strategy.
So strategic. But the state's number 7 on that strategic plan for student success is family engagement. Yet, I think we're on the same page. It's like, it feels like they just put Band-Aids on that subject, because they don't take the time to try to figure out how to communicate the right way to parents. It's almost like a top-down to the parent type of a system. Even when talking about absences and things like that, it's like, parents, did you know that your children are better off in school? And then, it's like, well, duh, but how do we do that?
And I've been in the past, I've been in on things like it. Sometimes, to fit on that flyer, that brochure, like you say, you have to compress and abstract so much that, it doesn't always land with its intended audience. So, I definitely know what you mean there. It's got to lay it out in pretty concrete terms. A lot of, you would talk about, a lot of times 21st century skills was something that came across my mind, looking at lists of those, and I'm like, but those are so abstract. I mean, how do you actually, what does that look like? What would you say is success in that particular, like, entrepreneurial spirit? Okay, great. That's a great thing. Been a great thing for a long time. What would you say that looks like? So
right.
It's one of those things. It's a nebulous thing that we get. Again, everybody kind of goes their own direction on that. Like, I posted on my Facebook wall, you probably saw it, like, what is learning?
Yeah.
And maybe 15 people answered, and I got 15 not completely different things, but if they were in a conversation together, I mean, each one was kind of its own flavor. And how productive is that discussion going to be? So
yeah. I mean, and I think people don't give sometimes, and it's not the teachers, it's just sometimes it's the administration. It's like they don't give parents enough credit to be able to understand the process of how you all teach. I mean, to me, I think even bringing parents in on, like, teachers can teach them, like when we're looking at the fall and part of that orientation, whatever it looks like, teaching them how a teacher does their planning. Like, this lesson starts here, but it's building up to something that, so your children are going to understand the full concept of it, instead of like, and what a content statement is.
Yeah, and that's really kind of what I'm going for on this video project, to just kind of do some object lessons in video, or in text, whatever. I haven't got it fully fleshed out. I'm an overthinker.
Me
But,
too.
yeah, but just to take some of these things, kind of get some, some definitions we can work from, and then use these object lessons to, get across some really important things about how kids learn. And if we can all start doing that, I've even with Peyton, I'm surprised she didn't bring it up. She and I have been working together on a learning game that incorporates these same principles, these same findings about learning, and it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. If they can see it and know what it is, then they know how to help the kid. And I got a lot of calls and things from parents for others like, wow, what do I do? How do I? And because it was new to them. It's not that anyone was trying to make it hard. It was just so new, and they didn't have a lot of knowledge about how to do distance learning and things like that. And even in the cases where the kid was getting a lot of direct help from their teacher, they still seem to feel like, I got to do something. I want to do something to help. And again, it's that not knowing what to do in that case. Really, it creates a lot of stress. And so if that's kind of what prompted the idea in my head, and I think, if I can give them some tips and pointers and strategies, then that stress will decrease, and they'll just be able to help the kid that much more.
And I'm thinking as I'm listening to you, it would kind of teach parents as you go along how to use technology better themselves. Sounds like videos and some instruction on some of those things. So kind of walk us through like what you do have, and then talk about maybe what you need, do you need community input or parent input, or what do you need from everyone?
Yeah, I would love suggestions. Specific things parents would want to know how to do. I think that would be wonderful. And that's one of the big reasons I wanted to come on here, was like, hey, everybody, reach out to me. Tell me what you need. I've got some ideas. I know what I know what I have that works. But at the same time, if it's not fitting the need, then, we're not really getting anywhere. But it's one example is probably going to be the first one is, talking about adequate time, giving kids the time they need, because John Carroll, who is a researcher, he laid it out. He said, if time is the constant, learning will be the variable. And he's exactly right. I mean, study after study has backed that up. And so I kind of liken it to I was watching really missing the fact we won't get the Olympics this year. And I was watching some old Usain Bolt footage. I mean, the guy's just an incredible sprinter. But then it kind of hit me, well, what if the race ended at 9.8 seconds? What if we just called the race off after 9.8 seconds? Who all would get across the finish line? Maybe Bolt and one or two other guys. And then everybody else is just kind of where they're at.
Right.
If you think about learning the same way, if we cut them off and we don't at least come back at some point, then we start to create a gap between the ones who could get across the line, who could, master the concept, and those who couldn't. And then if we keep doing that, that gap widens, and well, that's going to create some problems. So yeah, just using that, kind of what I do with the kids, tying into things people will recognize, and then use that to get across kind of a newer idea.
Yeah, one of my favorite things that you used to do with your math class, I don't know if you do it in science, but because I'm a wellness nut, as you know.
Yeah, that's what you know.
And all about feeding kids and nutrition and all that. But you used to bring in nutrition as part of your math class, and have them look at different, I think, what was it? You did, you were looking for the median. Come on, tell me.
Yeah, the nutrient study, look at the sodium and the fat and the sugar and all the 20 or 30 different foods they had to look up. And And that just kind of working with something so familiar and something that, is really important to them naturally. That kind of took pressure off of their concentration. I'm already familiar with this. And when you're dealing with things you're already familiar, it takes a lot of pressure off of what you're focusing on and what you can do in the moment. Kind of like the difference between driving through town. You got the radio on, you put lipstick on, you got whatever going, and it's effortless.
Yeah.
But if we went and drove the Beltway around Chicago, it would be white knuckle, even with all of our years driving. It's what we're not used to. It's what we're not familiar with, and that puts all the load on our concentration. And so giving them something familiar like that, really, it took the pressure off and let them concentrate on the math. And it turned out to be a really practical, nice little project. I always really enjoyed that. And the kids that talk to me, a lot of them bring that one up.
Yeah, I got the honor of going, observing one of the classes or so, and they were all very engaged and just so excited, and it was very impressive. But I think that goes along, like when I was talking to like CTE teachers and Kathy D'Antoni and about applying math to real life situations, and it's a lot better because kids don't think of it as math. Like you said, if they're familiar with something, and it's kind of a trick, but not a trick. Reminds me of Mary Cook, who her famous spaghetti sauce Michelle Obama approved of at one point, and she told me once about all the vegetables she puts in it, and she said, "Now don't tell the kids; they won't eat it." It's like, hidden in that sauce. But I think she was outed on this talk show, cooking talk show eventually. But so back to the parent, your program, is it geared towards middle school parents or just parents in general?
Really, parents in general. I mean, there'll be strategies in there for younger kids, strategies in there for older kids. You definitely don't use the same strategies on the same kids because you're just not ready for it. Probably, I mean, if there was a group that would get less out of it, it'd probably be like pre-K through 2 parents, because the reading and the writing is just such a big component of that age. Learning how to do that, you learn how to read so you can read how to learn, or read to learn. And once you hit that point, then these strategies really start to kick in and help them accumulate all that knowledge they need to do the things they need to do, to acquire the skills. And so, some of them are a little more writing intensive, a little more higher order thinking. Some of them are a little more straightforward and kind of knowledge building and procedure building. And it all just kind of works together. But it's all these strategies they share similarities too, in kind of how they engage the brain. Because I was actually listening to one of my absolute favorite cognitive scientists, Daniel Willingham, who, I studied him really heavily, and a bunch of others. But just the other day, he was doing something kind of like this, and he said, to the effect of wanting to learn and trying to learn have little bearing on whether you learn. He's like, specific things have to happen in the brain for learning to happen. Certain activities have to occur up here for it to actually take. And I thought, it kind of made me think, again, another object lesson. It's kind of like wanting to diet and trying to diet is no guarantee you're going to lose any weight. And again, I think that's something we can all relate to for sure. But, it's, me for sure. But at the same time, it's all kind of geared toward making that what needs to happen for learning happen. And so, like I say, I was ready for anything. I've been scrolling notes for days now, but I feel like that's kind of the big thread that ties it all together.
So does it have a name? I think I remember. No name. So you're looking for a name.
Still looking for a name. If anybody's got any good ideas, then I'm all ears. And sometimes I kind of like Bob Ross, I wouldn't sign my work before I approved of it. So it may be at the end I'll think of something.
So, kind of describe like, okay, so would it be kind of in phases in a series? Kind of describe what your kind of like your concept for the whole program to look like would be.
Yeah, I figure I'm probably would start a Facebook group, kind of like you have here, and then just drop in videos as short as I can make them to get the point across. Because if I know one thing, you can only hold a person's attention for so long before something else grabs a hold of it. And again, it would just kind of get the discussion going. More than anything, I mean, I like to present and do things like that, but when it gets real is when the real learning happens, is like when the questions start hitting, because that tells me the person has related to what's been said somehow, but at the same time, they want to know more. So I feel like that's really when the big learning happens. So more than anything is trying to just trigger some thought about these things, and again, get those thoughts and vocab in their heads, so we're all kind of speaking the same language over the kids, which I think is going to really help move things forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what someone today, a teacher described as what we need is like a marriage between teachers and parents.
Yeah.
to kind of build that relationship. Maybe it's rocky sometimes, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
But they were like, one was talking about like even in the past couple of months how they've done like Facebook Live questions, Q&A sessions, and this was elementary level, and how she's done like parent focused Zoom groups, and it's been almost like counseling sessions. Yeah. It's okay. You don't have to do A, B, and C. Just A is fine.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what, a lot of that kind of sounds like that's your overall thing, is just kind of really like, because to help you as a teacher, parents really need to kind of like understand the whole concept of learning, whatever that looks like for someone. So it sounds like to me you're looking for like to start maybe a focus group. Maybe that's on Facebook, because I tell you, in my work, which my regular job is to organize parents, get them engaged in schools, and all that. Facebook seems to be where the parents are at.
Oh yeah.
Sadly, because like me, where I'm in my 50s, maybe it's no excuse, but I don't go to Instagram very often. I'm not a picture person per se.
I'm not much of a dancer, so I avoid TikTok.
Yeah. I want to know how to do it, and my granddaughters have like threatened me with them, but I have not actually been in a TikTok.
Yeah.
Close, but not. So, but it sounds like maybe that might be what you're looking for. It's like a small focus group to kind of like get parents and teachers together to kind of like shoot out ideas, and I think this is the time to do it. I mean, I think you're coming at a time to do this where it's perfect, because we're all learning together and willing to learn together. Maybe we're learning out right now today because school just ended sort of last week.
Right.
But I potential for you for sure.
But having those conversations is what really kicked me into gear. I mean, that thought's always been in my head whenever I have interactions with parents. Whenever it's the right time, I do try to kind of get those things across best I can. But then I was like, man, it's really, no matter what shape this takes in the fall, we can stand to get on the same. This would be a good time to do it, because whether we're virtual or face-to-face or something in between, it can only help, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a big part of it. And I think it also just brings, it's not really empathy, it's just that understanding. And I feel like right now where teachers and parents are kind of on a level playing field, maybe a little bit, because, you all have dug in and had to do things you weren't expecting to do, and the same for parents. Again, it's just the perfect time to start these conversations and develop a program that's going to be sustainable and can really help a lot of parents, and the goal being helping the students, right? So I think this is a wonderful idea, especially since I'm into parents. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you looking to go from here?
I'm not entirely.
I mean, are there any, because I know you have a lot of notes, is there anything you want people to know about?
And there's it's hard to pick one thing. It's a lot to unpack, what's in my head right now, and I think that's the thing that's going to take more time than anything. Once I caught on with this with these cognitive scientists, because the big thing was, anytime there's a big shift in education, of course that's a lot of stress for everybody, but at the same time, researchers seem to find ways like, okay, well, now everybody's paying attention to, how are we going to meet this? Oh, I think we lost her. Well, I'll just carry on until she comes back. But every time there's a shift, like my career began with No Child Left Behind, and research started trickling out. Hey, you're back. I kept meditating while you were gone.
Good.
But, like I'll start over for you too. But, my career started around 2002, which is about the time No Child Left Behind was dropping. And that always has the effect of making us look hard at what we do. And researchers always see it as an opportunity to get their ideas out there, which is good. And there are other people, it's like, hey, let's make a buck, and well, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to fault them for that, but then it all kind of starts to mingle together, and it's hard to sort out. But believe it or not, the Common Core shift was kind of different. I mean, yeah, we took a look at what we were doing, and the researchers, they try to get their word out. But what was different this time was social media. If you look at some of these great researchers, you look at, Daniel Willingham, 2009, right about the time it was happening. Paul Kirchner, 2011, he joined Twitter, and they can get directly to us. They can get almost to the point of service now at the speed of social media. And so their ideas, the ideas have moved a lot faster, and they've gotten a lot closer to the classroom this way. Another really outstanding teacher down in Alabama, Blake Harvard. I've watched him in a conference here recently, and we communicate a lot on Twitter. But we've been able to, you talk about PLCs, and we try to build VLCs, virtual learning community. And so, I'm working with people from Europe and Asia and all points, and bringing our ideas together, and then. We're all pretty open-minded. We test things out. That's the big thing. Be open-minded. Be willing to try it and see, does it get results? And when I started, applying what these guys were talking about, the results were, it just blew me away. I knew that we were really hitting on something here. I mean, the last 4 years, of course, I'm in computer science now, so that's not tested. But, the last 4 years I was a math teacher. We had pretty consistent testing conditions. And I mean, you're talking about, our students were growing at 28% a year, average annual growth. I mean, that was nothing I had ever seen before by a long shot. That was some pretty tremendous growth. And I know it's not all about test scores, but that's something. It's a point that tells us something. And, so I really, chase that like the white rabbit. I've just been like, give me more, and it's always paid off. So some of those names I mentioned, people could look those up and kind of listen. Again, it's a little technical, but that's what I'm trying to unpack for parents. And it'll be challenging, but it'll be worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you can get parents tools, it's because we often flounder ourselves, and then when our kids ask for help and we're not able to help them, we feel helpless. And of course it creates that friction at home. And I understand, like, just through the last couple of months, it's even worse sometimes at home when parents are frustrated because they don't know how to help their child. And even looking forward to the fall, it's like a lot of things that people have said is there needs to be some sort of, more tutors in place to help students.
Definitely, yeah.
As well. Don't know how that will work or look. Hopefully, there won't be any budget cuts, right?
Yeah.
There'll be like actually more staffing available or money for staff, expanding staff instead, because I think that's what it's going to take. But
in a lot of ways, I expect the kids to step up. I really feel like some kids have had time to think about school and what it's like, because they only ever really knew it one way before.
Right.
Now they're open to more possibilities, and I'm sure many of them have, had to tutor at home or next door, and so you may find some kids when we come back who have found the calling in all of this, and I think that would be awesome. The more the more they can step up and do, I think the more they'll own it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I've heard most of all throughout this is how resilient kids are.
Absolutely.
Students. and I've experienced when I've had high school students on here, or I'm just talking to them, in general, over the past couple months. They're often more wise than adults. Some of the things that come out of their mouth, I'm just like blown away. And that's a lot of it is you all as teachers, and and I'm sure a lot of it is the exposure to social media. I just can't even. I feel like the caliber of students that were there when I was in high school are so more advanced now.
Oh yeah, I think. Yeah, every once in a while I'll hear kids these days, and I'm like, man, I think back to when I was a kid, and I think, they're all right.
Yeah.
They're not nearly as bad as you think, and that definitely came out of my mouth about resilience, because, and I was kind of racking my own knuckles about it, because I thought, oh man, if this goes on very long, my daughter's she's gonna climb the wall, she's gonna fight us at every turn. But I mean, she has handled it like a total champ, and there have been some hair pulling moments, if you can't, there always are, but it's all part of it, I guess. We're not going to get into this without some of that.
Yeah, I mean, even my own daughter, she was kind of wiser when I asked her. I said, "Well, what would you do different? If you had to continue this again, or a little bit, or whatever, what would you do different?" And as a freshman in high school, she goes, "I want more deadlines. I felt like there weren't enough deadlines. I want structure." So she feels herself she hasn't thrived, but it's all on her, because she was the procrastinator, not the teachers.
Yeah.
But I think that was smart of her to say, asking for more discipline, which kids do sometimes. You just listen to them,
When they're ready for it, they will. That's always kind of the surprising thing. It kind of makes me think of that race analogy. Of all of them, it would be Bolt asking for, well, bring that time down a little bit, and then other would be like, well, give me some more time.
Right.
Kids are rarely shy to ask for what they need, and usually they'll surprise you. In ways they know a lot about what they need, and other things they don't. But that's where we come in.
Exactly. Yeah.
It'll surprise you, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So is there any? Because I missed the first part of when you were talking to everybody when I went out. That was the first, by the way. The first time that went out during one of these podcasts.
The computer's brand new, but it's crashed a couple times. I got a backup device waiting right back there just in case. So yeah, I'm ready for anything.
Yeah, well, and talking about that, I hope, that's one of the things I hope the state works on. Someone actually suggested today, which I thought was brilliant. Why doesn't the Department of Ed have their own, like, broadband, that
Yeah.
serves all the schools in West Virginia somehow? I don't know how that would work, but I thought that was a good concept instead of relying on Suddenlink or Xfinity or whatever.
It's where the infrastructure is, and yeah. So I guess it's probably, I don't know anything about it, but it's probably a lot easier to, use what's there than.
Oh yeah. I don't think it's anything we could do by the fall.
Wait on Elon Musk to get Starlink up and running, then we'll all be set, right?
There you go. Yay! Oh man. So what is your next step? So what do you need to do to make this happen? Are you looking for funding? Are you looking for partners? It's kind of still you're in that infancy stage.
Very much. And it's probably I've usually I'm kind of a big production. It's got to be perfect now kind of person, which is part of the overthinking, I think. But I've kind of come to accept that it's just going to be real basic as far as quality and production. I think I just need to. I think I can leverage what I have now for the most part. I guess that master's degree in ed tech's going to pay off. Well, it's paying off now in this new job. That's been an interesting experience. But I think it's just a matter of getting it down and just doing it. That's now that summer's here, it seems like the stars are aligning, and we should be having something pretty soon, I imagine.
Good. Well, I'd like to offer you anything you want to try out.
Yeah.
You want to try out here. Parents, I can get the parents or whatever you need. I'm all about that.
People say, hey, does this make sense?
Yeah.
Does this click? Or do I need to think of another example?
Yeah. I think that helps. I learned I had 3 groups today of a mix of parents and teachers and different types of teachers, like ESL teachers. I'd never thought about, the struggles they were having necessarily. And, a big community of students that have ESL a teacher. And, but anyway, we were talking about just, all these needs, and it all kept going back to parents. So this is a very relevant conversation. Sure.
And my transition was really, computer science, and it transitioned really easy. But then, we went back into the school building to do our checkout for the year. And I as I bumped into people, I thought, oh man, what you must have gone through to like special ed, and like you say, ESL. And I thought, oh man, what a challenge that had to be to translate that all to, oh.
Well, and then the communication piece, because they couldn't necessarily communicate with their parents as you would normally, and they would have to rely on the students understanding exactly what needed to be done so the students could tell their parents. So
an envelope, put it in their backpack, and say, hey, take it home. You say mom cleaned out your binder, and that's why you didn't have your assignment, so I'm putting it in your binder so she can
yeah.
It was a lot simpler in that way. So it was interesting to kind of hear everybody's experience and how it went. I felt lucky in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure. Yeah, that was it. I took like 6 pages of notes today, just alone from the groups I had, and just so much information, great ideas. But I'd love to have your input on that. Maybe not now, but just as I've been talking to people, especially on that piece, you're already working on it, and I see where I know Department of Ed's looking for a lot of they're looking for PBS videos for the summer to keep that education going. So students retain things, but also parent support. And and I have a offer to where if I had people that wanted to go on there and record a video, that they would like some parent support. So that's one thing that if you're interested in, I'd love to brainstorm with you and get you out there.
Yeah,
so,
that'd be great.
Yeah.
I tell you what made me think, to do with the parents is, well, kind of like that post you made earlier. I love the part where she said, I love his methods. What is that?
Yeah.
The student of a teacher who harps about his method, because we will spend a pretty significant amount of time, here's what we're going to do, and here's exactly what's happening in your head when you're doing this.
Right.
This is why it causes you to learn it. I mean, we spent a significant amount of time, and the kids began to become really familiar with the methods.
Mm-hmm.
And they took it so well. I was like surprisingly well. And so I thought, well, maybe this is a thing. Maybe we can do something with this, because the kids catch on, and then if the parents catch on, then we just got a whole huddle of people who know how to help them learn and help themselves learn. And I think, man, that's the grail right there, is it not?
It is. I mean, again, it doesn't sound like family engagement, but it is family engagement. That's just like the whole, I think that I really believe, and maybe nobody will disagree or agree with me, but I believe that is the key. More that parents get educated on these things, because education is a lot different than it was when they were growing up or whatever, 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, whatever, 4 decades, 5, I don't know.
Yeah, well, the beauty is the science, the research has come out, has affirmed a lot of the things. You imagine hundreds of generations of human experience of teaching the next generation. We got some things right.
Yeah.
But the research kind of focused it, put a lens on it and showed us specifically, okay, you're taking notes. Taking notes is good. How you take notes matters a lot.
Right.
Like if you got a young kid and they don't know so well where the keys are, and they're trying to find the keys and listen to what's being said, then it's just thinking doesn't happen. It's a total breakdown. If you have someone like us who's a really good typer, and we can type as fast as the person's talking, it actually goes through too fast. And it's just like we get just kind of like a phonetic reading of the material, and it just passes through. And so they've shown definitively that handwriting the notes, because we can handwrite about half as fast as we can type.
Yeah.
If you're, like you or me, an average typer. And so what that forces us to do is to kind of shorthand, to compress, to summarize, to paraphrase. And what that does is that triggers a deeper processing of the material, and so we learn it better. And I mean, it's never even been a close competition as far as what was retained afterward. So it's those little things that we've been doing for years, but now we can really get it down to, its best version. And and it's been so plain in the results I'm seeing. I mean, it's been very eye-opening.
Yeah.
It's not like, because I know as a math teacher, good Lord, this last decade, how many times I talked to parents about that Common Core math. And I definitely did not convert everyone. I was like, I'm not going to be a big cheerleader here, but I'm going to tell you that there's a method behind the madness. And it actually ends up with them doing the way you and I learn to do, but doing it better and understanding it, and being able to apply it to new types of problems. Whereas you and I learn those different types of problems differently at different times. This kind of sets them up. And I definitely didn't win them all, but there were a lot of times someone like me goes, well, since you put it that way, I mean, I'm not going to do it. I don't really get it, but if it breaks it down so that the kid has to concentrate on fewer steps at a time, less information because it's new to them. And New information is just a whole lot more work than new information that's connected to stuff you know. We can write faster, type faster, think broader when there are things about it we already know. But it's kind of like driving around town. We know all the landmarks, we know the distances. We could probably do it blindfolded, but in an unfamiliar place, especially one that's really hectic, it's a whole different, it's a whole different ball game about what's happening in your head. And so those are just kind of the little things that if we all understand, then we can approach the whole teaching and learning process, more efficiently, more effectively, and it's just going to result in more learning for kids. And it just creates a snowball effect where eventually they're going to be like, I got it. Let me do it. And, that's always a great thing. I would. Our second project, it was actually our whole project in the virtual. We had one rotation in virtual, and so it was kind of our whole project because it was 14 lessons and 14 face-to-face meetings. But it was web development. And, there was a point where some kids would take, a lot of kids, they would create the web page with the pieces I gave them. The bits of knowledge I gave them, they put it together, make a nice, basic, personal web page. But then you could always tell when it clicked, is when you started to see things in their page that I didn't teach them.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, this all meshes. I've got this, so now I can take it to the next step. And so it was very indicative that something really clicked in their head and they were able to take it beyond what was given to them. And that's, as a teacher, that's always the best. That's always the best feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah, it almost teaches them too about goals in a way, in a kind of parallel way. And I was talking to a parent who her child has an IEP, and she was talking about taking notes at home about just observations on her student, like behavior, and and it was a lot of shorthand, like just so she was looking for patterns. And it's kind of like just what you're saying is like you're actually, the students are learning how to look for familiar things and just learn a lot faster. And so it's kind of sort of the same concept, but not really.
It's a snowball effect eventually.
Yeah.
It takes off.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's great. And I'm a learner like I don't think I could learn as well on the screen, like kids do nowadays. I have to write things down to absorb and retain them. So I get what you're saying for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, is there anything else you want anyone to know before we sign off tonight? Like I said, I have some offerings to give you, like some opportunities to kind of, help you get it, pilot it, or whatever you want to do in the coming months.
Really like that idea. Yeah, I think probably the main thing I would say to people, and it's the number, for our class norms when I was starting out the virtual learning, I had be patient on there twice.
Yeah.
Because, as a parent, I've had to scold myself from time to time. And I see it happening elsewhere. If this milestone isn't reached by a certain time, then red alert, you hit the panic button. And it's just really just, in all things, be patient and just give, kids need time and they need different amounts of time. I remember, not to go crazy with all the studies, but I read it recently. As far as going back to Carroll's, time is constant learning. And so, studying strategies on giving kids that time until they hit that benchmark. This one researcher, I think it was back in '84, he followed a group for several years. And the one thing he did not see was a vanishing point where all the kids were suddenly learning at the same rate. The kids who needed less time always needed less time. The kids who needed more time were the same ones that always needed more time. And so it's just cliche time. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's going to happen when the conditions have been met. We can't. If we had seen at some point all those kids catching up and being able to grasp the concepts in the same amount of time, then we could, there might be a case for pressure. Come on, we can get there. But it wasn't in that study.
Right.
And I think it just makes a case for the adequate time. Give them the time they need. Come back to it as often as you have to. That's one of the effective strategies. In fact, is spacing it out and coming back to it over time is super effective. But just be patient with them. Be patient with us. Be
Right.
patient with each other, and be supportive.
Grace for all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we do that, then things will happen. Good things will happen. Yeah. So I would say that'd be my big message. It's just patience.
Yeah, I agree. Patience for parents, patience for teachers, patience for students, because we're all like you said, we're all in this together, right? So,
and I mean, we all have a point where our patience gets lost, and that to be expected. My mother didn't name me Patience. I didn't name my child Patience. So I don't know a lot of people named Patience, and there's probably a good reason for that.
Yeah. That's probably where some of that social and emotional support comes in during times like these. I would imagine. It's like let's get some more social workers calling out teachers and parents and students.
Yeah. Listen to "Work Together" by Canned Heat. That's another good.
Yeah.
Good song.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me tonight.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we'll keep in touch, and hopefully, get some stuff going, because I love the project. When you told me about it, I was just so excited.
I know you're one to bounce it off of. You always have great ideas, and I mean, watching your work with the LSICs and the nutrition prayer, I don't know how you do it. I mean, you're a rock star.
Oh.
It's good to have you on our team. I'm telling you.
Thank you. I don't feel like a rock star, but thank you.
Rock stars always look tired, but
there you go. That's me.
They're always worn out. Rocking too.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, and I feel the same about you. And that's why you were one of those first people I thought of when I thought, I gotta have some really good teachers on here. And so I'm glad that we started talking. And
we get together on this. It was a lot of fun. I was nervous as could be. I mean, I do present at conferences, but I come to this, I'm like, oh boy, it's the internet.
It's easy peasy.
A lot of fun.
All right. Well, thank you. And tell Peyton I really enjoyed her, and I'd love to have her back too. And she can talk about her adventures of the summer, maybe at the end of the summer or whatever, when she's ready to get back.
We're going to try to have some good ones to the extent we can.
Yeah. All right. Well, you finish your Memorial Day evening off. Very relaxing. And I will keep in touch and talk to you soon. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about census. I have one of my coworkers on here with her census fellows. So have you filled out your census?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
We voted and did our census. So.
Very good. That's great. All right. Yeah, because that's a lot. Talk about funding. It's a lot of school funding. So we got to make sure we get that. So, but you'll have a great evening, and I will talk to everyone soon. Kyle, you're awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.